So I've spent a lot of time talking about what my favorite rogue skill is, what my favorite builds are, what the best builds are. Today, however, I wanted to objectively identify which rogue skill has the best base potential for damage. Now, this took a little bit of time and I'm still working through all different intricacies because there's like so many in Diablo 4. But if you guys enjoy this type of content, which does require a lot more thinking, let me know by liking the video. It really does help out. With that said though, what really is the best rogue DPS skill? Let's dive into it. All right, so here we are on the spreadsheet, and I'm gonna walk you guys through this. Of course, no one really loves a number dump unless, I guess you're me. I kind of enjoy this stuff, but to explain it to you all simply, what I've done here is taken the base damage of each of the 5 core skills for the rogue and figured out kind of how many multipliers of or multiple hits of that base damage you're doing. Now this changes, of course, based on what paragon you're running, whether or not you're generating combo points, and all manner of different things. So keep in mind, this is just a base level test, and with all the different multipliers and such, some skills can get better, some skills don't get as good, and therefore you have way more variables introduced. However, just to look at it at a base level, what we'll see is rapid fire has multiple hits. Flurry it's kind of awkward because it hits 4 times technically, but it's 1 damaging hit. You have twisting blades, which hits twice, the stab in, the pull back, barrage, which shoots out 5 arrows, and penetrating shot, which shoots out 1 mega arrow, totaling all up, and you can see the actual total damage of each one of these skills at its base ranks. And what you'll see here is rapid fire takes the cake by a very large margin, and then it goes twisting blades, then barrage, then penetrating shot, and then flurry. Now there's obviously so many different modifications, as I've already mentioned several times, but I've actually incorporated a lot of the traditional ones. I'm not going to dive into all the aspects today because that can get very complicated. And then you have like chill damage, you have critical strike damage, you have all the different paragon nodes that rogue can kind of incorporate. However, what we see here is all the skills have an enhancement and an upgrade 1 and 2. And what I mean by this is, like, let's say you have twisting blades. Well, this is the enhancement. You'll notice it all says enhanced version, and then the other ones are like upgraded versions. And I guess it's improved advanced across the board. So I guess I could change that, but essentially these are upgrade 1 and 2s. And so I've categorized them by type. So like if they're providing healing, well, they're not providing damage. That's like another utility thing. If they're getting vulnerable, that's a utility thing. I can't calculate the damage on that, or the damage increases, because whether or not you could permanently keep up vulnerable with this, you might replace something else in your build, etc. But for the ones that said crit chance, crit damage, or just straight up damage, like twisting blades, well, that's very easy to incorporate. And I've done so here. So what you'll notice is I have all the skills once again with their base damage, and then I have it with the enhancement, so the first upgrade. And once again, you'll notice that rapid fire is taking the cake by a large margin, and twisting blades is kind of right behind it, with a pretty sizable lead over its other competitors. Then with the first upgrade, what you'll see is, well, most of the skills actually do not change. Barrage, however, has 1 upgrade here with the critical strike chance here, where every other barrage, essentially, you're going to get that 20% increased critical strike, which is really, really nice. I should say every other. It's basically like if you go ahead and hit and it ricochets 4 times, you're going to go ahead and get that increased critical strike chance. So it really depends on how you're running barrage, but this is actually a very, very big critical strike chance increase. Keep in mind that I'm basing it off of like base crit damage as well. And then we get to the upgrade 2, and you'll notice that once again, all the numbers are pretty much the same except for rapid fire. Rapid fire gets a massive crit damage bonus if you decide to go this route. And although in some scenarios it's not as good because you can get the energy on hit from improved rapid fire, this one does work really well with the barber because you can generate energy elsewhere. So getting extra critical damage when you evade in conjunction with the rapid gambits here, can easily provide you with infinite dashes. So you can infinitely keep up this critical strike damage all the time. And so you actually get a sizable increase in damage when you're getting that upgrade too. And you'll notice that the base damage at rank 1 of rapid fire would end up being 190% of your DPS, right? And this should be based off of your weapon damage. So if I like pull up, let's say the crossbow here, it does 2,208 damage per second. And you'll notice below that, the damage per hit. So let's say I take a minimum, or just a real easy number to calculate, 2,500 damage. Let's say I'm on average doing about 2,500 damage. Well, 2,500 damage, I multiply that by 190%, and I'm gonna get around like 4,800. And then that damage gets multiplied and all that other stuff by like vulnerable damage or like additive damage and all that other stuff, right? But the important thing to note here is we see two skills topping the charts pretty much across the board for DPS, and that is Rapid Fire and Twisting Blades. Is that a coincidence that they're the best skill? Not really. Or I guess you say it is. It's not really anything surprising that that's a coincidence, is what I should say, because it's the best multipliers and it's doing the best damage, right? That's pretty self-explanatory in terms of why the skill is good. But it's not just that. What you'll notice here is, even without the additional multipliers, and which is why Twisting Blades is so valuable, let's compare it to, I don't know, Flurry, another melee version. Well, you get CC or you can get vulnerable, but guess what? The base damage on Twisting Blades is more than double Flurry, and yet we are getting sometimes CC with the days or CDR off of the cooldown reduction when you pull back the blades. So despite that fact, we're still getting more value out of our damage with the utility skills of Flurry. Now, Rapid Fire doesn't really offer much utility besides like permanent energy if you have permanent vulnerable, but oftentimes you have so much energy regeneration that doesn't really apply. So it's literally just a burst damage skill. So it's kind of harder to pair with CC, which is kind of why Twisting Blades ends up typically being a little bit better, well-rounded skill because it fits in with most builds. And this is what this is not calculating, is the AoE aspect. So these are all considering single targets, but if you start to involve AoEs, Flurry can get a little bit better with its circular AoE. Twisting Blades gets significantly better as well with the pullback, Barrage with the ricochet, penetrating shot with the pierce through. Heck, even Rapid Fire gets a little bit better, although that one probably has the least AoE out of all of them on this list. But what this really ends up meaning is Rapid Fire and Twisting Blades are tuned for lots of DPS. And so what you'll end up seeing is, because they have such a high base multiplier, all the other things within the Rogue's kit, like vulnerable damage, or like, some sort of frigid finesse with the control aspect added on, right? Giving you extra damage against frozen enemies, extra damage against close enemies, extra damage against whatever it is, works better when you have a better base multiplier. Granted, in some scenarios, they're additive, but it gets a little bit complicated with that. But important thing to note is like vulnerable damage, for example, is going to really skyrocket this out of the ballpark. And if you have a better number at the beginning, well, that vulnerable damage is going to skyrocket even further, right? Because going, let's say 190% times 2 is going to be closer to 380%, whereas 60 times 2 is 120. Kind of keep that in mind. So I thought this was kind of cool, just as diagnosing what objectively is the best rogue skill. And in terms of DPS, it is Rapid Fire. Most of us have known this, and in fact, I've said this since the very beginning, which is if you're looking for single target DPS, Rapid Fire is the way to go. And ironically, this is, well, maybe not ironically, but contrary to popular belief, Rapid Fire actually does a lot of AoE as well with the recent additions in Season 1. So consider it, and I'll be making a couple Rapid Fire builds myself as I approach, climbing up to tier 100 with Rapid Fire, and I'll showcase hopefully all those builds soon. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below. And if you guys enjoy this type of content, let me know, again, by liking the video. I had a fun time with this, kind of calculating all the multipliers and such. And if I messed up anywhere, let me know in the comment section down below. Always welcome for that. See you for the next one.